just this morning sent a letter off in response to President-elect Obama's letter to me, highlighting for him where our emphasis is going to be. And I met with Senator Moy last week on these very projects. And the projects we're proposing for the stimulus are not these projects. They are in, say, 4 basic areas. One is our broadband initiative, which we'll be hearing more about in the coming weeks. That's not something that we have gotten appropriations for or budgeted for, but it is critical. And let me take this time to point out, as Kyle said, to have a healthy economy, we need a healthy construction industry, but we need other things as well. We need the capability for new technology-based industries to thrive here. And under the current broadband capacity of the state, we're going to be restricted in our ability to do that. We need to widen that ability to get information in and out of the state. The broadband initiative fits in very well with President-elect's proposal. Also our energy initiative projects. We have many of them. They're exciting. Federal funding for those would be great. It would move us so much more quickly in that direction. And then we also have housing proposals that were on both lists. They're on this list you'll review, but they're also on the list we sent to the President-elect. Finally, we have a major highway modernization plan that we submitted to the federal government. Those are projects that have not been funded yet by the legislature. They're big projects, they're important projects, and that's sort of the nature of what we submitted then. Broadband, energy, housing, and highway modernization.
Representative Finnegan, Representative Ward, would either of you like to comment on the stimulus package?
What I think we've seen here is that the governor has a plan, and notice the turnaround. The free fall of the economy took place just in the middle of October. Here it is the middle of December, and the governor has already put a $1.8 billion CIP package together, which is not going to cost taxpayers anything. Why I say that is because it's simply a matter of speeding up what otherwise was going to be in the pipeline. Speeding it up, meaning that within the next number of months, between now and I think 18 months from now, there will be these CIPs out in the streets creating jobs. And if you look at Mr. How does his name? Artadas. He says, and he said it's so exacting, it's all about jobs. It's all about people having the food, the jobs, the houses that they're not going to lose. And quite frankly, I think Hawaii is probably really ahead of the curve in terms of what's happening in not only the U.S., but in the world. There's a lot of frustration out there, and I think the governor's got a leg up in leading the nation in this.
And you know, Gene, one of the things that I was thinking about, that when Mr. Artadas of the operating engineers spoke, and he spoke so real, it actually struck a chord in me, because it brought me back to about a decade ago when my brother left the islands in, seeking work. He was in the construction industry. And now he lives in another state. He comes back to visit, but it really truly is about jobs and the responsibility that one has to make sure that their family is cared for. And it comes down to those types of basics. One of the things that I find so fascinating is that in this time where challenging times are ahead, we are looking at how we can come together in Governor Lingo's leadership, as well as our willingness here at the legislature, and bringing the different legislators of both parties together to answer the needs of the community. Now, I do have to also chime in that we had, what the stimulus of capital improvement projects is basically how do we get that money back into the economy? And when we did have substantive, carryover balance and in our budget, that we were talking about how can we get that money back into the pockets of our residents and our tax-paying, citizens of Hawaii. And we wanted to do that when we had a surplus, and that's when it comes down all to taxes again. Taxes is such an important issue that when we could have gotten some of that money as a stimulus to our economy, and hopefully, as history has shown, prevented some of some economic downturn.
According, Representative?
Well, I was going to add one more thing, that one of the great things about what this project is doing, or these series of 1,521 projects, is they are entirely trackable, traceable on the internet. If you looked at the .gov/CIP, the public for the first time can see what their government is spending and when and why, and if there's a slowdown in some project in your particular area, those of you in Hawaii, there's some stimulus packages that I know are going to be coming vis-a-vis the school system. You can track these things. And I think in terms of openness and transparency, that is a big and positive development. But otherwise, as Representative Finnegan said, it's about getting the money back in the economy. The whole notion of liquidity, that is putting the blood back into the veins, putting the money back into the system. Right now, with the free fall of the economy, people are fearful to let loose of their money. And FDR had it right. Fear is a very big element that we have to watch out for. Fearing, not trusting the banking system or the institution. And quite frankly, all of those things, all those systems are as sound as they ever were. It's only the psychology of the free fall that took place, and now we're adapting. And we commend the governor for, in a matter of weeks, putting a CIP strike force together and getting 1.8 billion out on the streets within a short period of time. Of course, she says the onus is still on us as legislators to make sure we facilitate this, get the federal money, and leverage things to to where we're not only doing what she has already had in the pipeline, but what otherwise needs to come on board in the future.
It's very important for us to look at those kinds of projects and look at about how we stimulate the economy. It's so interesting because as we go back in time, and we got to give credit to where credit is due. Governor Lingo saw that we were in a good economic situation years back, but there were so many things put into place, and that's why I believe that we're in a position where we are in today, that we aren't bleeding so much that tons and 20% of your workforce is going to get laid off or anything like that some of the that California is doing right now. Or whatever it might be. But there are some serious problems that are happening in other states that aren't happening here. And it was the foresight in saying that we need to put some real economic, positive things in our future.
According to a December 17th article in the Honolulu Advertiser